So, namaste, friends. We come to our second session, which will be titled Four Pearls of Wisdom, Yoga Sutras, chapter 11 to 14. And this is going to be deliberated by Chitra, which is going to be a combination of a talk as well as chanting. Chitra is from India originally, and actually my university senior, and she is a Vinyoga teacher and Vedic chant teacher living in California now, Sunnyvale, California. And she is very passionate about yoga philosophy, especially the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita. And she's actually a naturally born singer. She's been singing from a very, very young age, so her chanting is wonderful and delightful. And she is one of the, she graduated from one of our training programs many years ago, and she's very committed to teaching these teachings in a holistic way. And it's going to be her session now, and I will just allow her to start now. Thank you, Chitra. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Kaustubh. Thank you, Kaustubh. I'm really honored to be here. I don't know if I have ever told you, Kaustubh, I met your father once in 2010. I had traveled to Chennai for a conference. I don't remember the name of the conference. And at that time, I also took his blessings. So today I am thinking about that day, and I'm so honored that I was able to receive his blessings on that day.
I think it was called Synergies in Healing.
I think so. Yeah, that was the conference, 2010. I remember seeing you also, but I went to Sir and he was sitting with Menaka ma'am, and I prostrated before both of them. And maybe that's why I came to this tradition.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Please start.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Kaustubh. Namaste, friends. Welcome to this talk on the Four Pearls of Wisdom, Yoga Sutras 1.1 to 1.4 of the first chapter of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. I will be beginning with some traditional prayers, after which we will look at the chanting of the four sutras, and then briefly we will look at the meaning of each of them. So let's close our eyes, join our palms, and we'll begin by offering salutations to the best of sages, Sri Patanjali, who's the author of the Yoga Sutras, who gave us yoga to remove the impurities of the mind, grammar to remove the impurities of the speech, and Ayurveda to remove the impurities of the body. Om यस्त्यक्त्वा रूपमाद्यं प्रभवति जगतः अनेकधा अनुग्रहाय प्रक्षीणक्लेशराशिः विषमविषधरः अनेकवक्त्रः सुभोगी सर्वज्ञानप्रसूतिः भुजगपरिकरः प्रीतये यस्य नित्यं देवो हीशः स वो व्यात् सित विमलतनुः योगदो योगयुक्तः योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं श्रीमते अनन्ताय नागराजाय नमो नमः। पातञ्जलमहाभाष्य चरक प्रतिसंस्कृतैः मनोवाक्कायदोषाणां हर्त्रे हि पतये नमः। ॐ Friends, before I continue, I would like to share a screen with you. Kaustubha, I'd like to share a screen. Yeah, I hope you all can see the screen. These are the 4 sutras that we are going to be focusing upon. Before that, I would like to give you some background, friends. Besides the term Patanjala Yoga Sutrani, which basically literally means the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, you may have heard the term Patanjala Yoga Darshanam, Patanjala Yoga Shastram. And this is because yoga is one of the 6 schools of orthodox schools of Indian philosophy, which is based on the knowledge of the Vedas. And as you know, the Vedas are ancient Indian scriptures, and they are called Shruti because they were heard by sages when they were in a deep state of meditation, and they are revealed by the divine himself. So because of that, the yoga philosophy is considered to be very sacred, and it is referred to as Yoga Shastram or Yoga Darshanam. Now, the term darshanam means that it is from the root word drish, which means to see or to look. And in this context, it means that we are looking at our true selves and we are moving towards self-realization. So if you look at yoga philosophy as a scripture that is moving us towards self-realization, it needs to be considered to be a very personal and a very spiritual path. And besides yoga philosophy, there are other in the 6 systems of philosophy, there are other systems like Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Yoga, Sankhya, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. And all of them are accepting the authority of the Vedas. Okay, so all of these paths are paths towards self-realization. So we need to understand that this is a very personal path. This is a very sacred path. This is a very spiritual path, and we need to cater the tools of yoga to fit the individual. This is the very basis of Viniyoga. And this makes it a very personal journey for each individual, a spiritual path. And this is a very important point to note because each individual's journey is different, and the tools of yoga should cater to each individual's needs. This is the basis for the concept of Viniyoga, tailoring the practice to the individual's requirement. And Acharya Krishnamacharya considered the Yoga Sutra to be one of the most important texts. And I remember reading in the Heart of Yoga, Sir said that he had studied the Yoga Sutra 8 times with his teacher, and each time they found something new in the teachings. So this is the basis for the concept of Viniyoga, tailoring the practice to the individual's requirement. And everything we practice should be for a higher purpose. When we think about yoga as a system of philosophy that is for personal development, that is for self-realization, everything we practice in the name of yoga should be considered to be for a higher purpose. So if I am practicing an asanam, it should be for a higher purpose. If I chant a mantra, it should be for a higher purpose. If I do pranayama, it should be for a higher purpose. So every tool of yoga should be considered to be for a higher purpose and not just as a superficial tool. Now in this screen that I'm sharing with you, these are the 4 pearls of wisdom. These are the first 4 sutras of the first chapter of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Now the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali has 4 chapters. The first chapter is called Samadhi Padaha. The second chapter is called Sadhana Padaha. The third chapter is called Kaivalya Padaha. The fourth chapter is called Vibhuti Padaha. So the first 4 chapters are considered to be the essence of the text, and they are referred to as Chatussutri. So we will begin by learning how to chant these 4 sutras. So as you can see, the first 4 sutras can be chanted in 2 ways. It can either be chanted in a classical way, or it can be chanted in a simplified way. Can you see the screen? Yeah, we will look at the first 4 sutras from the Samadhi Padaha. The first sutra is Atha Yoganu Shasanam. Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodhaha Tada Drashtuhu Swarupe Avasthanam Vritti Sarupyam Itaratra. So this is the classical way of looking at the 4 sutras. And over here, we are looking at the simplified version of the 4 sutras, where they have been broken down into shorter texts so that it is easy for beginners to chant. So because the Yoga Sutras are based on the Vedas, there are strict rules on how to chant them. And the Yoga Sutras is considered to be a Smriti text, while the Vedas are considered to be Shruti. Shruti is that which was heard, and Smriti is that which was based on the knowledge of the Vedas. That which was composed based on the knowledge of the Vedas. So I will start to teach how to chant these 4 sutras. The first sutra, Atha Yoganu Shasanam, can be chanted like this. Om Atha Yoganu Shasanam. You can try chanting the sutra after me. Om Atha Yoganu Shasanam. Om Yogaschitta Vritti Nirodhaha. Second sutra. Yogaschitta Vritti Nirodhaha. Third sutra. Tada Drashtuhu Swarupe Avasthanam. Fourth sutra. Vritti Sarupyamitaratra. Now this is the simplified version of the 4 sutras. Atha Yoganu Shasanam. Yogaha Chitta Vritti Nirodhaha. Tada Drashtuhu Swarupe Avasthanam Vritti Sarupamitaratra. So the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is considered to be a Smriti, while there are strict rules governing the chanting of Shruti, there are rules that need to be followed while chanting Smriti as well. Considering the fact that the language of the Vedas is Sanskritam, and Sanskritam has come to us from Lord Shiva himself. So there are strict rules as to how to pronounce. There are rules on pronunciation. There are rules on where to pause. There are rules on where to, how to connect the notes. Yeah. So these are the four Chatussutris, which basically, if you look at the first four sutras, they basically give you the essence of the entire text. So all of the sutras in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali connect to the first four sutras or in the text. And if we were to look at these sutras in isolation, we would be able to understand the entire text. So the first sutram is called the Lakshana Sutram, the Pratignya Sutram. The second sutram is called the Lakshana Sutram. The third sutram is called Kaustuba.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So we are looking at the first four sutras of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and they are referred to as Chatussutri because they convey the essence of the entire text. That's why we are referring to them as the four pearls of wisdom. So first, we will look at the first sutram, which is Atha Yoganu Shasanam. So here we are looking at both the Devanagari script as well as the Roman script. And this script is the Roman transliteration of the original Devanagari script. And these markings that are here are basically so that whoever has not is not able to read Devanagari is able to read the sutram comfortably. So these are basically called aphorisms, and they are easy to memorize, to chant, to transmit. The first sutram is called the Pratignya Sutram because it is a promise. And the first word in the Pratignya Sutram is the word Atha. And Atha is considered to be a very auspicious word. And it is considered to be as sacred as Omkara in the tradition of the scriptures. And Yoganuशासनम basically means that we are talking about Yoga Darshanam. We are talking about the philosophy of yoga. So the first sutram is called Pratignya Sutram, and it basically says that we are making a promise to study the scripture, and we'll complete the study and see it till the very end. So it is a promise to begin and to complete the studies. The second sutram is called the Lakshana Sutram, which basically defines yoga. Yogaha chitta vritti nirodhaha. So here we are defining the state of yoga. And the third sutram, tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam, basically defines what happens as a consequence of that state. And the fourth sutram, vritti sarupyam itaratra, basically tells us where we are when we are not in a state of yoga. So these are the 4 pearls of wisdom, which basically give the essence of the entire text. So we will once again look at how to chant these 4 Sutrani. Om Atha Yoganushasanam. You may repeat after me if you wish to. Yogaha chittavritti nirodhaha tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam vritti sarupyam itaratra. Let us chant it once again. Atha yoganushasanam yogaha chittavritti nirodhaha tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam vritti sarupyam itaratra. So this is basically the simplified version of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and this is the classical version. So this is the way the original text was, and this is the way that Sir has simplified it so that even beginners can chant. And he has broken it up according to the rules of Sanskritam. So once again, the first sutram is called the Pratignya Sutram. The second sutram is called Lakshana Sutram. The third sutram is called Svarupam. And the fourth sutram is basically telling us where we are when we are not in a state of yoga. So the first sutram, Atha, basically means here and now. Here we begin the study of yoga, but it also means that we are beginning the study and we are going to see this all the way through till the end. Yoganushasanam basically indicates Patanjali's Yoga Darshanam. So this is being made very clear in the very first sutram. Yogaha chitta vritti nirodhaha. So yogaha has been defined as chitta vritti nirodhaha. So nirodhaha is a state when the mind is enveloped from all sides and there is no activity that is happening and the mind is completely focused and it is in a state of complete concentration. Chitta is one of the deeper realms of the mind and it is very close to the chit or the consciousness. And vritti is the activities of the mind. So when the chitta vrittis, when the activities of the mind are restricted and when you focus the mind, then at a deep level, you restrict the mind from moving outwards. And the chitta vrittis are restricted, you focus the mind, and Sir has defined this sutram as that state when we focus the mind on something and we sustain that concentration without any distractions. So when we are in that state, we are in a state of nirodha. So nirodha basically means enveloping the mind in such a way that we are able to look inwards. And tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. At that time, when we are in this state of chittavritti nirodha, tada, at that time, then drashtuhu, basically we are talking about the drashta. So drashta is the spirit. In the yoga school and the Sankhya school, we are made up of two entities, spirit and matter. So drashta is basically referring to the spirit. So at that time, when we are in a state of chitta vritti nirodha, what happens at that time? The drashta abides in its own essence. Avasthanam means to abide, and swarupe basically in its own nature. So what is the swarupa of drashta? Acharya Krishnamacharya defined it as jnana ghanam, ananda ghanam. So when we are in a state of complete focus, then the drashta abides in its own essence, which is jnana ghanam and ananda ghanam. So tada refers to that state of chitta vritti nirodha and what happens as a consequence of that state. And vritarupyam itaratra. So at other times, itaratra means at other times, vritti sarupyam. So the drashta identifies with the activities of the mind. So the first 4 sutras basically are explained in the rest of the text. There are 4 chapters in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and the rest of the text is basically explaining the first 4 sutras. And that's why this is referred to as Chatussutri, which is basically the essence of the entire text. If anybody has any questions at this time, Kaustubha?
At the moment, there is no questions yet. So
Yeah.
you can continue a little bit if you want. Perhaps what you can say, just to make it more practical,
Yeah.
how has these 4 sutras helped you in your life? Because you said this is about interpreting into your life, right?
Right.
And
Yeah, so basically the practice of yoga needs to be personalized. Like Kate said, there are several tools in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Like in modern times, yoga has been interpreted as a physical practice, but it is much more than that, because each of us is on our own journey, and each of us is different. Each of us is in a different stage of life. Each of us is we are different emotionally, we are different spiritually. So because of that, there has been definitely an ability to adapt these teachings to my own life, and ability to adapt these teaching to students. And when I see students, I see that each one of them is very different. So I need to adapt the tools of yoga to cater to each individual student. So as because we see that this is a path of self realization. In modern times, a lot of people look at yoga only as a physical practice, but it is much more than that. There are many subtle tools in the practice of yoga, like bhavana, mudras, bandhas. There are several tools that can be personalized to cater to each individual's needs. As Acharya said, Krishnamacharya said that we need to teach what is within ourselves, but not as it applies to us, but as it applies to the student in front of us. So each of these sutras has helped me to become a better teacher, helped me to become a better practitioner. And I think it is important that we go back to the source teachings, so that we can take this forward, and we can cater to the needs of each and every individual, and help them to go forward in their yoga journey.
great. If there's any other question, my dear friends, please feel free to ask. Chitra, can you also speak a few words about the concept of Shraddha in the Yoga Sutra? Perhaps that will also be very helpful to people.
Yes, I remember, one of the quotes by Sir was that, Shraddha is what makes the tools of yoga come alive. So I think even when we talk about the very first Yoga Sutram, Atha Yoga Anushasanam, when I say that, when I chant that Sutram, it basically indicates that I have Shraddha. I am going to do this practice with Shraddha. I'm going to see this all the way till the end. So Shraddha is a very important aspect of the teachings, of believing in the teacher and believing in the teachings. So definitely Shraddha is a very important part of this journey.
Good. And another question is, can you elaborate a bit more on the Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali?
Yeah, the Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali is presented in the second chapter, and you can directly link it back to Yogaha Chitta Vritti Nirodhaha. So basically, the Ashtanga tools need to be practiced with a higher purpose in mind. So we are not practicing any of the tools in isolation. We need to practice them in the context of the higher purpose of yoga. So Ashtanga Yoga includes asanam as a tool, includes pranayama as a tool, includes the yamas, the niyamas, and it includes several tools which need to be practiced with a higher purpose. Just because each of us is trying to move towards self-realization. That is the purpose of the yoga philosophy. So that is presented in the second chapter.
A comment has come. Maybe it's something you can respond to. I think Atha means if you aren't really serious about personal transformation, you should put the book down and try Pilates. What is your response?
You should try to put the book down and
I think the meaning is you should try to put the Yoga Sutra book down and try Pilates instead.
I don't know what that means.
I think what he means, Robert means, is that Atha is a serious commitment. And if you are not interested in serious transformation, you can go to a superficial method like Pilates. I think that's what he's trying to say. Yeah. So what's your view about it, Chitra? Because we still have a few more minutes for you. So it's a good question.
Yeah. So Atha, definitely the word Atha is very important because it shows commitment and commitments to the tools of yoga, commitments to the study of the scriptures, commitment to to the practice of yoga, commitment to the teachings of yoga. So Atha is a very important word that shows that indicates Shraddha and faith in the teachings. So Yoga Anushasanam is basically teachings that need to be followed.
Yeah. Yes, that's the question that has come. And another question that I would like to ask you with regard to that topic you talked about, individualization, is it that yoga is something that is universal for everybody, even of people of different faiths or different religions, for example, because yoga is originally coming from a Vedic scripture? Do you feel that this is universal, and how is it universal?
Yeah, yoga is definitely universal because it is the voice, it is based on the teachings of the divine. It is based on the teachings of the Vedas, and the Vedas come to us straight from the divine. So it is for everybody, it is for every individual. Regardless of where they come from, regardless of who they are, regardless of gender, regardless of age, regardless of stage of life, it is surely applicable to everybody.
And do you think that in today's age where people are interested in fast results, quick consequences, especially positive consequences, nobody wants bad consequences. Do you think that something like yoga, which is a slow system, has a place?
Yes, I think we need a lot of patience with this method. It is not a practice that is for quick results. It is definitely something like, you know, the tree of yoga will bear fruit after many years of practice, probably even many lifetimes of practice. So it requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of nurturing. So definitely, you know, it cannot give you quick results. It requires a lot of shraddha. It requires a lot of abhyasa. It requires a lot of vairagyam meaning to detach from what is going to take you away from your abhyasa. You know, so definitely it is something which is going to take a long time to bear fruit. So we need to commit to this path, and we need to continue to practice with shraddha.
Great. Thank you so much, Chitra. I have a last question that is very similar to the one I asked Kate, the last question. If you were to meet Sir today, what would you like to ask him? Like, is there a question or is there something that you would like to ask him?
If I were to meet Sir today, definitely, as Kate said, I would say thank you for the teachings. And I would like to ask him what it was like for him to, you know, consider his father his teacher. Because it is a relationship that is, you know, like being like your own father being your teacher. How did that relationship work? And how did he learn from his father for, I think, 30 years? He learned from his father.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he learned from his father for 30 years. And how did he, you know, how was that relationship as father, son, and teacher, student?
That's great.
Yeah.
Great. So, thank you, Chitra. We come to your
Thank you.
conclusion of your session. It's so wonderful that you shared the first four sutras, not only the chanting, but also the simple meaning of the four sutras. So this is also very wonderful. And thank you for being part of this event today, my dear. And hope we will see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Kaustubha.
Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.